Last month, Google closed down its search engine facility in China after issues with censorship and hacking. Meanwhile, Chinese citizens are waging a war of their own, evading China's Great Firewall to view sites that the government deems dangerous. I'm Fawzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we look at the role of the internet in China and the rising tide of cyber warfare with the West. It's estimated that China has hundreds of thousands of computer hackers. Motivated by patriotism, they've been accused by the West of pilfering military intelligence, technology and commercial secrets. Steve Nettleton reports.
It is home to the world's largest internet population. China's 33 billion web pages offer computer and mobile phone users everything from entertainment to e-commerce. Yet despite the Chinese government's attempts to control this digital domain, a vibrant alternative ecosystem is flourishing. It's estimated that within the ranks of the 380 million internet users here are hundreds of thousands of hackers. Security software company Symantec says a third of the world's malicious software originates from China. But while hackers elsewhere might be motivated by notoriety or profit, many of China's are driven by patriotism. Known as Hongke, or Red Visitors, they view themselves as crusaders on a mission to fight a perceived anti-Chinese bias in the world.
Honkers distinguish themselves by their nationalist spirit. They stand out when the country is facing a crisis.
In the city of Kunshan, near Shanghai, an 18-year-old honker known as Madman goes online. Madman claims he has infiltrated more than 20,000 computers, yet he doesn't like to be called a hacker.
Honkers don't hack. On the contrary, they help domestic websites to check their vulnerabilities for free. Sometimes I check and inform website managers of their vulnerabilities. What honkers do is for the country, and so it is meaningful.
Madman helps maintain one of China's largest nationalist hacker forums, the Honker Union for China. There, its members can trade tips, tutorials, and code, both for protecting as well as intruding into others' domains.
At first, I was hacking domestic sites. Other hackers told me there's no point in hacking our own websites since they're not well built. They said the best way to show one's ability is to hack foreign sites.
He moved on to attacking Taiwanese, Japanese, and Western websites and exploited flaws in operating systems to break into thousands of computers around the world. In January, the website of China's biggest search engine, Baidu, was hacked by a group calling itself the Iranian Cyber Army. Madman, along with other Chinese honkers, retaliated against Iran-based websites.
Think about it. Baidu was hacked. Baidu belongs to China. If you hack me, I will hack you back.
Attacks by honkers have grown in scope in recent years. In 2009, the Melbourne Film Festival announced it would screen a documentary about Rebia Kadir, an exiled political activist of the Uyghur minority from northwestern China. Hackers first defaced the festival's website, then brought it down with a denial of service attack that forced organizers to temporarily suspend ticket sales. Liu Qing has played an influential role in China's honker community for a decade. He is the founder of another of the country's most prominent hacker groups, the Red Hacker Alliance. In 2001, he took part in attacks on U.S. websites in the wake of a collision between a U.S. reconnaissance plane and a Chinese fighter over the South China Sea.
Honkers are a group of ambitious young people who use internet technology to show their love for the country. It's an expression of nationalism. Say you work in a company. Wouldn't you feel insulted if one of your colleagues is bullied by people from another company? People want revenge when they feel bullied. The problem can be solved by fighting back.
Liu Qing has not been timid in promoting the honker movement. He's appeared on television, written 2 books, and even sought a movie deal. He now runs a cybersecurity consulting firm which helps Chinese websites find and fix vulnerabilities in their domains. He believes honkers serve as guardians of China's developing internet.
On one hand, we attack foreign anti-China websites. On the other, we help domestic sites improve their security. What we do now is protect online safety in China.
Liu has found a commercial outlet for his experience. He promotes seminars and technology exchange events for Alliance members and other programmers. He sees his work as fulfilling an important function for society.
What we did before was about expressing our anger, but we have become more mature as we developed. We realized that we were being attacked because there were security holes in our systems, so we can focus on cybersecurity work to protect websites. People cannot attack us as long as we protect them. It's another kind of patriotism, and it's also a legal profession or trade to be pursued.
But apart from the evident cases of web vandalism, the overall impact of honkers on the internet remains hard to measure. Questions linger about whether they are responsible for more serious breaches and whether they have any connection to the Chinese government. Internet experts say the picture is muddied because it's often very difficult to determine just who is behind an incursion. In late 2009, a cyber attack named Operation Aurora targeted Google, Yahoo, and dozens of other U.S. websites. Google said that hackers had stolen some of its proprietary code and broken into email accounts of prominent human rights activists in China. The incident led the company to recently shut down its Chinese search engine. U.S. computer security investigators claimed the attack originated from 2 universities in China. But experts warn the evidence does not conclusively prove that Chinese were involved.
There are elements of it that seem to connect to Chinese interests, and people are still investigating now, looking at schools in China and so on. And that's part of the general problem of this area. It's called attribution. Who is behind it? It's very difficult to tell in a lot of these cases.
Ron Diebert is the director of the Citizen Lab at the University of Toronto, one of the world's leading institutions in the research of cyberspace. From 2008 to 2009, his organization uncovered and tracked a sophisticated cyber espionage network called GhostNet, which was targeting members of the Tibetan community and had penetrated computers in more than 100 countries, even within the office of the Dalai Lama. Despite a lengthy investigation, his team could not declare with certainty just who was responsible.
With GhostNet, there was circumstantial evidence that connected it to Chinese interests, to Chinese geography, to Chinese jurisdiction. In at least one of the cases, an IP address traced back to Hainan Island in China. But that alone, as persuasive as that evidence is circumstantially, doesn't give us a smoking gun per se.
Any alleged relationship between hackers and the Chinese government has likewise been difficult to substantiate. In The Dark Visitor, a book investigating the world of Chinese hackers, author Scott J. Henderson says there's no proof of direct control of China's hacker alliance by the government. Yet he believes they maintain a kind of symbiotic relationship. In his book, Henderson wrote, "The alliance is exactly who and what they claim to be, an independent confederation of patriotic youth dedicated to defending China against what it perceives as threats to national pride." However, the government has recognized the value of alliance members and has made tentative contacts with them. Alliance members make ideal candidates for flexible operations. They have proven themselves to be creative, patriotic, capable, and motivated.
What we're seeing in Operation Aurora and GhostNet and these other ones may be part of that different context. They have to get intelligence from wherever it comes, and that may mean enlisting the people broadly in the effort, or constructing millions of different little cyber espionage networks and hoping one of them proves fruitful.
But China's government has called accusations it's culpable in hacker attacks groundless. In a statement in February, China's foreign ministry said China prohibits hacking and will crack down on hacking according to law. Many Chinese feel the allegations are unfair, as China is also one of the world's largest victims of hacking.
As far as I know, 90% of the computers in China have been illegally attacked by hackers. Sadly, quite a lot of people do not know that their computers have been attacked. Many people are unaware that their computers are controlled by Trojans or other remote control programs.
The sheer volume of hacking activity calls into question how much command any government or organization could hope to maintain over an army of hackers.
I think there is a big risk that if you nurture a climate of cyber privateering, if indeed that's going on, where you're encouraging hackers and you're encouraging criminal behavior, it could very quickly get out of control and turn back on you, turn the tables on you.
After the break, we meet a new breed of cyber activist. As the Chinese government tightens its grip on digital media, some netizens are finding ways to tunnel their way out of censorship.
Welcome back to 101 East. This week we're looking at the internet in China and how cyber warriors are trying to evade tight censorship. Here's more from Steve Nettleton.
In step with China's rapid economic growth, the internet has exploded as well, supplying all forms of social networking sites, news, and entertainment. China's government has been seeking to increase its control over this vast cyberspace. It is believed to employ tens of thousands of internet police and has established an elaborate filtering system that blocks access to websites it deems improper, sites that range from Falun Gong to pornography. It also mandates a climate of self-censorship, where web editors must monitor discussion boards and delete content that might run afoul of government censors. It's known as the Great Firewall, or in short, the GFW.
In political science thought, if an authoritarian government wants to maintain its governance, it needs three magical instruments: lies, terror, and violence. If it wants to continue to lie, it needs to block the way of getting true information, to block the channels for publishing what it knows to be true. This is the most important role that the GFW plays.
Win Yunchao is a new kind of cyber warrior. His weapon, text posts of up to 140 characters. He uses short messages on microblogging sites, such as Twitter, to circumvent China's tightly controlled media.
In my dictionary, new media doesn't just mean new media. I would rather call it self-media, and associated with it, private communication. What is self-media? You don't have to rely on traditional media, but you can use the internet and mobile phones as platforms to pass around information and build a fixed audience around you.
Under the alias of North Wind, Win has assembled a potent following inside China and abroad. Like a digital herald, he alerts his audiences on Twitter, Facebook, and other social sites of new crackdowns of censorship and developments in human rights cases.
As our society is controlled tighter and tighter, new media like Twitter can work in a decentralized way. Any nobody can launch a movement by sending information on Twitter, which can then be passed around by an influential person. And it's possible that no one knows who launched the movement.
Many of the social sites Win and other activists use have been blocked by the Great Firewall, so they connect through proxy servers and virtual private networks to access the rest of the World Wide Web. Chinese netizens call it climbing the wall. And while at present only a fraction of the country's internet users follow the practice, tightening restrictions are driving more and more to peek past the electronic curtain to see what lies outside.
In terms of numbers, wall climbers account for fewer than 5% of the total internet users. It might just be millions or tens of millions of users. This is already an optimistic estimate. But from another point of view, a wall with millions of holes can't block wind, nor water, nor people from watching the scenery outside. So I think that when a wall can't really play the role of a wall, it's foreseeable that it will exist in name only or even finally collapse.
Blogger Zhou Shuguang has made it a personal mission to teach web users in China how to climb the wall.
In a society under the rule of law, there should be freedom of news, as well as supervision by public opinion, which can guarantee the healthy development of the society. If we want the ability to think independently, we must be able to acquire information without any interference.
Zhou came to fame as one of China's first citizen journalists. He adopted the net alias Zola after the Italian football star. Equipped with his iconic yellow BlackBerry and a digital camera, he roamed the country documenting civil unrest, forced evictions, and other stories deemed too sensitive for mainstream Chinese media. That period ended when he was roughed up by police while covering a story in northeastern China in December 2007. But he still had an audience of web readers eager to know what was happening in China. He then realized he had something else he could offer them.
Some netizens in other cities said they wanted to meet me, so I organized a salon to share my experiences with them. Later, I felt my knowledge could help people, so I started training others about internet technology and security to help them improve their work capability.
Zhou now travels around the country offering courses on how to get around government filters and to protect systems against hackers.
Chinese people will be enslaved if they can't think and speak freely. The society will go to extremes, just like in a fascist country, so the freedom of expression is very important. If we can get access to more advanced technologies, such as VPNs and proxy servers, we can build a forum where we can express ourselves freely.
Even within the Great Firewall, Chinese netizens are finding creative ways to express unauthorized points of view. An alpaca-like animal began appearing on Chinese web pages in early 2009, bearing a name that in Chinese sounds like a vulgar curse. The so-called grass mud horse went viral, spawning music videos, mock nature documentaries, and even a line of dolls. It has become an icon of defiance, along with its nemesis, the river crab, a double entendre for the Chinese word for harmonious, which represents government censorship. When Google announced its plans to close its Chinese search engine, a group of Chinese gathered outside its offices in Beijing to sing a song about the grass mud horse.
I think it is very important to develop free speech and supervision by netizens as a positive force. We know that in the past, many netizens have revealed information that helped bring down corrupt officials.
Liu Duliang is the director of the Asia-Pacific Institute for Cyber Law Studies in Beijing. His organization focuses on the legal and social issues facing China's internet. He supports a balance of web freedom with restrictions.
I think it is wise for the government to encourage netizens to act as an internet watchdog under the law. Of course, there needs to be some limits on the way they use that right. Freedom of speech cannot descend to slander or harm the national interest, or give voice to those who advocate secession.
Liu says one problem is that China's internet policy is too subjective and needs to be formulated into a clear legal framework.
I believe if we want to build China into a democratic country ruled by law, then we should give proper guidance to people's lawful right of supervision, rather than being afraid of this right. We should not block some website just because it has some particular information in it. Everything should be conducted and guaranteed by the law.
While many Chinese web users have come to accept internet limits, A growing number are frustrated by the government's expansion of the Great Firewall. Shen Ge considers himself a patriotic Chinese citizen, but he says loving his country doesn't mean he has to accept the government's controls on information.
Everyone has curiosity. If there's something I cannot see, it makes me more curious to climb over the wall and see what is outside. I want to know what is blocking me from seeing it.
As censorship runs up against economic interests, many wonder whether, like the Great Wall, the Great Firewall may go down in history as a symbol, rather than an effective barrier against information.
You can do things to contain political opposition and human rights groups and other groups that create problems for you for national security or cultural reasons, but ultimately there is this major underlying force of pressure. Insofar as the global economy is connected to cyberspace and access to things like Wikipedia and Twitter and Facebook and so on matter not just for hobbies or personal sake, but for engines of economic change and development, then it's very difficult for any government to control that force over time.
I don't think of it as a brick wall. I'd rather consider it an ice cream wall or a lollipop wall. It will melt away with time. Every netizen will lick at it again and again until it melts away.
That's all the time we have for this edition of 101 East. From all the team, thanks for watching.